Christmas Eve always runs on momentum. Same house, same table, same sequence of events that no one formally plans anymore. It just happens. People arrive carrying dishes, coats get folded into familiar corners, conversations pick up mid-sentence from the year before. I showed up on time. Not early, not late. That's usually where I sit in most things. Dinner moved, the way it always does, overlapping conversations, small interruptions, someone refilling glasses without asking. I didn't feel out of place. I just didn't feel particularly included either. It's a subtle distinction, but once you notice it, it's hard to unsee. At some point, my cousin stood up with his glass. That's how the announcements usually start. Not formally, just loud enough that people shift their attention without being told to. He was smiling in that proud, slightly performative way people do when they're about to deliver good news. "So we all came together this year," he said, glancing around the table, "and we got something special for Aunt and Uncle." A pause, just long enough to build anticipation. A boat. There was a beat of silence, then the room reacted all at once. Laughter, surprise, clapping. Chairs shifted. Someone asked what kind. Someone else said, "No way." I clapped too, not out of enthusiasm, just because the room did. "We all pulled in," he added, like that part mattered just as much. That line stayed with me. Not immediately, just enough to sit somewhere in the background while the conversation kept moving. My parents looked, pleased. Not overwhelmed, not confused, just comfortably surprised, like this had been explained to them already in some version. I took a sip of my drink. Let the noise carry on around me. Then my mom leaned slightly toward me. Not to interrupt the room, just a side comment, the way people share details they assume you're already part of. "We used your savings for the final payment," she said, almost lightly. "Hope you don't mind." She smiled when she said it. Not asking, just informing. For a second, nothing changed on my face. I'm pretty sure of that. Years of staying neutral in moments that didn't quite make sense had trained that part of me well. Inside, though, something shifted. Not sharply, not explosively. Just into alignment, like pieces of a pattern finally clicking into place. I didn't ask what she meant. Didn't say which savings or when was this decided, because the answers were already implied in how casually she said it. This wasn't new to them, it was just new to me. Around the table, the conversation had moved on. Someone was asking about where the boat would be kept. Someone else was joking about summer trips. No one looked at me. That was the part that settled it. If this had been a misunderstanding, someone would have checked. If it had been a mistake, someone would have noticed the gap. But this was just part of how things worked. I placed my glass down carefully, reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The movement was small enough that it didn't draw attention. Just another person checking something mid-conversation. Except I wasn't checking anything. I opened a file I hadn't planned to use that night. Not originally. A few weeks earlier, I'd been reviewing some shared financial accounts. Nothing unusual, just routine. That's when I noticed transfers I didn't recognize. Not large enough to trigger alarms individually, but consistent. I had asked about it once. The answers were vague. "We'll sort it. It's temporary." I didn't push. Instead, I listened. There's a way people talk when they think something is already agreed upon, less careful, more direct. A conversation in the background, voices not lowered enough. My name mentioned like a resource, not a person. "It's fine, he won't mind. He always helps out anyway. We just need to cover the last part." I recorded it without saying anything. At the time, I wasn't sure why. Now, sitting at the table, it felt less like preparation and more like completion. I placed my phone face up on the table. Pressed play. At first, no one noticed. The volume wasn't loud, just clear enough to carry across the nearest few seats. Then someone stopped mid-sentence. Another turned slightly, trying to place the voice. Recognition spreads differently than surprise. Slower, but heavier. The conversation on the phone continued. Casual, practical, unguarded. My name came up again. So did the decision. No one in the recording sounded uncertain. No one asked if they should check with me. They just moved forward. The room didn't go silent all at once. It unraveled into it. One conversation ended, then another. Chairs stopped shifting. Glasses paused halfway to the table. By the time the recording finished, no one was speaking. I didn't look up immediately, just tapped the screen to stop it, let the quiet settle fully before I moved. When I did, I picked up my glass and took another sip, not to make a point, just because it was there. No one asked me to explain. No one said it was taken out of context. That's the thing about hearing your own words played back. You don't need interpretation. My mother didn't repeat what she'd said earlier. She didn't look at me at all. I sat there for a few more seconds, then placed my phone back in my pocket. "I'm gonna head out," I said evenly. Not loud, not apologetic. Just enough to be heard. No one stopped me. The next morning, my phone was full. Missed calls, messages, different tones layered on top of each other. Some careful, "Can we talk? I think there's been a misunderstanding." Some more direct, "Why would you play that like that? You embarrassed everyone." And a few that circled around the real issue without naming it. "What are you planning to do about the accounts?" I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. Whatever had been assumed before wasn't assumed anymore. That was already clear. By the afternoon, the messages shifted. Less about the dinner, more about logistics. What's happening with the transfers? Are those still going through? We need to figure this out quickly. I read them all. Didn't feel urgency, just recognition. The system they had been relying on, quiet, consistent, unspoken, was now visible, and once something is visible, it's harder to pretend it's automatic. When I finally replied, I kept it simple. "I'll be reviewing everything individually. No accusation, no timeline, just a statement." Things didn't collapse, they adjusted. Conversations became more careful, requests more explicit. Some people reached out directly, in ways they hadn't before. Others kept their distance. I still see them at gatherings. The structure is the same. The tone isn't. No one mentions the boat. No one brings up that night. But sometimes, when a conversation gets too casual, too assumptive, you can feel it. A pause. A small recalibration. Like everyone remembers. Just enough where the line is now.